let us begin our afternoon session with the panel discussion for family enterprise in agriculture with our distinguished speakers and guests. Let me introduce you our session moderator, Dr. Annie Koh, the Professor Emeritus of Lee Kong Chian School of Business at Singapore Management University in Singapore. With her, there are so many panelists now. Let me mention one by one. The first one is Mr. Ankesh Shahra, the founder and CEO of AgriMax Ventures in Singapore. And then there is Mr. Ren Hua, the CEO of Taiwan Public Company Limited. There is also Ms. Hidemi Masuda, the Senior Managing Director of Masuda Seed Co. Japan, and Mr. Yuki Masuda. There are also Mr. Takuro Nagahara, the President and Representative Director of Kimise Brewery Co. Japan, and also Mr. Ryotaro Nagahara. Joining with us also Dr. Hironori Higashide, the professor from Waseda Business School from Waseda University, Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel discussion is available in 2 languages, in English and also Japanese. So you can change the option in the button below. You can choose which language you prefer. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Annie Koh and all panelists.
Thank you very much. A very warm good afternoon to everyone. And I'm delighted to be able to moderate this amazing panel. First of all, I must say a big thank you to the organizing committee behind IAIC, putting together such an amazing program. On top of that, I want to say thank you to Waseda University and our host from Japan, which is the university host for this year. So in no particular order, I'm going to require from each of the family voices in a while to kind of do a self-introduction, and they can do better than me reading the CVs. So I'm going to start with Hiro-san, because Hiro-san has been doing research in the area of family business for a long time. So maybe Hiro-san, you can tell us a little bit about the center and the enterprise that you're looking after in Waseda University.
But anyway, thanks, Annie. Thanks for introductions. So this is Hilo Higashide. I'm currently hosting this conference this year at the Waseda University. So I'm really honored to host it this year. But anyway, my research focus is really on the family business, entrepreneurship, and then ethics and creativity and these things. So that's why I'm again really honored and pleased to invite 2 quite interesting, long-lasting family businesses to the panel discussions. The one is, of course, they will introduce themselves later on, but one family is the Masuda family, which is related to the seed business, other family businesses. The other family is the Nagahara family, is the quite long-lasting, with the history of nearly 150 years. The history is quite similar to the Waseda University's history. It's about 150 years. So that's why that long-lasting families can provide us the quite nice insights into how these long-lasting families related to the agri area can last such a long time. So what kind of entrepreneurship, what kind of innovation is quite necessary for even the long-lasting firms to survive and last much longer. So this sort of insights could be probably shared quite well with all the participants and all the listeners to this panel discussions. And then, I really hope the discussions to lead to the future cooperation and collaborations just across countries, particularly within Asian countries. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Hiro-san. All right, that's exactly our vision for this panel. We're hoping that with the sharing, we can all come together cross-culturally to collaborate. So let me start with Mr. Takuro Nagahara. And Mr. Takuro-san, I am really amazed that you are a 5th owner-manager of the company. Maybe you could share with us by introducing the family business involvement in agribusiness.
はい、君瀬醤油の永原と言います。今日はこのカンファレンスに、ご招待いただきましてありがとうございます。我が社は、1866年に、材木や木を扱う会社として、創業しておりまして、それから、14年後の1880年から、醤油を作り始めています。ですから、140年ぐらいですね。今、醤油をずっと製造して販売してと。その間に、いろんなことがあったというのは私も、もちろん聞いておりますけども、伝統産業というふうによく言われます。今日のこの私の後ろのこのバックグラウンドは、もろみですね。醤油を約半年間寝かせているんですけども、寝かした後の、その後に備前焼きという、大きな甕で、音楽を聴きながら、お醤油を熟成させたものを、こういう紙パックに、こういうお醤油を、あちこちに日本で販売をしているというのが我が社のビジネスです。伝統的なものですから、ついつい何も変わらないのがいいことだという部分もありますけども、味は変えないながらも、いろいろと、革新的な今回の、テーマ、イノベーション、いろいろ挑戦をしておりまして、2年前からは、うちぐらいの規模の中では多分初めてだと思うんですが、100% 国産のブルー大豆に切り替えております。我々の業界そのものは非常に、今、競争が厳しくて、どんどんやめるところも多いんですけども、その中で、特徴をね、この備前焼き、この大きな甕で音楽聴かしているとか、いろんな特徴を打ち出しながら、そういう多くの今お客様に使っていただいてるんですけども、そういうところをとても大切にしながら、次は何をしようかなということを、私もファミリービジネスで、今、5代目なんですけども、よくうちでは、日本では駅伝っていうのがね、とても有名で、走るのがよく、お正月とかにね、テレビで流されるんですけども、私は自分の中では、駅伝の第5区間走者という気持ちでおりまして、次の第6区間の走者が、今日はここに参加してますけども、無事にいい形で襷を途中で倒れることなく渡したいなという気持ちで仕事もしております。はい、以上です。
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love the story. I love it that you have to have music played to your urns of soya sauce. So we'll ask you about the music later. Thank you very much. I'm going to move to our other Japanese family member, Miss Hidemi Masuda. And maybe same question. How do your family business get involved in the agribusiness?
はい、皆様こんにちは。増田スタジオの増田と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。私どもは種苗メーカー、品種を開発する会社なんですね。ちょっと画面共有してもよろしいですか？失礼いたします。はい、これ、ご覧ください。これが油中。これ、キャベツやブロッコリーやカリフラワーがありますね。私たちの会社は96年ほど、この油中だけを専門に品種開発をしている会社なんですね。で、皆さんご存知のキャベツやブロッコリーもあれば、日本で私たちが開発したプチベールっていうような、ちっちゃくて芽キャベツというようなんだけれども開いたような野菜、こんなすごく美味しくて可愛い野菜もあるんです。ここに書いてあるように、私たち先ほど申し上げましたように、96年ほど油中だけを専門にしておりまして、この間に日本の国には農林水産省の 大臣賞っていう賞があるんですけども、これを5回ほどいただきました。で、とにかく専門性が高いので、そこを深く深掘りしていこうということをすごく中心に考えていることがやっております。で、その中で私たちは種を開発するだけではなくて、それを生産者がどのように生産するかを分かるために生産事業を起こし、そしてその生産事業から見える課題をまた品種開発に戻し、そして加工品も作し、そしてその加工品から見えるまた課題と、それからマーケットに対する声ですね。これを反映させてまた開発に戻し、そしてまた新しい品種を作ると。このサイクルでいろんな品種を開発しているところなんです。でその間に農業というのは知財化というのもとても必要だと思っておりまして、私たちの開発した野菜がどのように知財化できるのか。例えばこれは今下にある写真はケールなんですけれども、多分シンガポールの方はもう皆さんケール知ってるかもしれないんですけれども、ケールって本当は大きな葉っぱなんですね。ちょっとご覧ください。こんな大きい葉っぱ。これがケールなんですね。で、これを皆さんは、葉っぱを一枚一枚取りながら収穫していくんですけれども、多くの方が食べれてやりやすい、それから、作りやすいように、こんなちっちゃいものを開発する。こんなことが栽培技術として、すいません。栽培技術として、ちょっと見えにくかったですね。すいません。開発しなくてはいけないということでやったところ、この特許を取ったりとかしています。さっき言ったように、油中のものを全部専門でやってるんですけれども、ケールっていうものが一番最初のスタートから、そしていろんな風に進化しています。キャベツやブロッコリーやカリフラワー、みんなケールの仲間なんです。で、これが油中の仲間で、これがビジネスの、私たちが展開しようとしている大切な野菜の一つに今なっているところです。ご覧ください。これがケールの一覧です。品種登録という制度を取った上で、さらにまたいろんな開発をしています。チリチリしているものや赤いもの、それぞれニーズがあるんですね。そのニーズに合わせながら開発をしているところです。そして、やはり食べるときに今、機能性というのはとても重要ですね。ですから、機能性表示というのが日本でも始まりまして、この野菜において機能性表示を日本で初めて取りました。なんとこの野菜を食べると血圧を下げることができる。こんなことも歌えるような野菜ができ始めました。このように、農業というものをその品種を開発するというところから機能性だったり、それから加工品だったりとか、いろんなビジネス展開にどこまで可能性があるんだろうかということを深掘りしながらやっているのが今、増田採取場です。以上です。
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hidemi-san. Can I ask how many generations in now in Masuda?
はい。
はい。
今3代目がやっておりまして、今ここに見えている結城増田、この子が4代目となります。
こんにちは。4代目です。よろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much. So I love this because it will go into our next question soon. But I really want to hear from Ren Hua and Ankesh. So Ren Hua, your turn first.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to meet you. My name is Ren Hua and I'm from Singapore and I'm living in Southeast Asia for the last few years. My family business, I come from a background called a company called Taiwan Group. We're one of the largest tapioca and B2B ingredients platform company in Southeast Asia. I'm actually third generation for the business. My grandfather, who was a Singaporean, moved to Thailand back in the 1940s to set up Taiwan, which started first as a trading platform, trading commodities, trading pellets, and then really started building the tapioca starch business throughout the 60s and 70s. During the 80s and 90s, my father helped to professionalize the business and to modernize the business. And the family itself also diversified into other new areas, such as hotels and hospitalities during the 80s and 90s. I came onto the company around 5 years ago to lead the IPO of Taiwan on the Thai Stock Exchange. We brought together two different platforms that became Taiwan Group. The first is a consumer food platform, We're one of the largest fresh food and fresh noodles companies in Southeast Asia. We distribute and manufacture more than 20,000 tons of fresh noodles, vermicelli, and grass noodles to Southeast Asia and around the world. The second part of the business is a B2B business. We're one of the largest tapioca starch, flour, modified starch, and B2B ingredients, where we export our products from Southeast Asia, Thailand, and Vietnam, again to 20 over markets across the world. And the third business, which I just recently started last year, is moving into sustainable packaging and bioplastics, where we are striving to become the first tapioca-based bioplastics company in the region to actually compound and form different types of bioplastic solution. For me, it's been a wonderful journey. Again, it's one of accident. I didn't come from an agriculture background. I actually I knew Prof. Annie almost 15 years ago. I came from a finance and strategy background. But for me, I think the passion for farming and agriculture and sustainability is something that has really grown a lot in me in the last few years. So really look forward to meeting all our friends here from Japan and different parts of the world, and look forward to learning from you today. Thank you.
Ren Hua, is your virtual photo tapioca plant?
Yes, yeah.
And they can grow so tall?
No, it's called for Zoom, Prof. Annie.
I know, I'm just pulling your leg. Thank you so much. And I love the story. And I know in a little while when we talk about how the next generation of farmer looks like, this will be the kind of picture. Yeah, our youthful farmers like Yuki and yourself and Ankesh. Ankesh, your turn. Tell us a little bit about your family's involvement in agribusiness.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. So my name is Ankesh. I'm also based in Singapore. I've been here since 2008. I'm originally from Mumbai. After I studied in the US, I came over here. I'm the third generation member of a very diversified family business that's located in India. So like most Asian families, ours is also really big. My father, his brothers have set up and established various businesses over the last 70 years. So some of the business interests include food, grains, oilseed processing, agricultural warehousing, storage tanks, terminals, logistics. Then there's also business interest in dairy, cement, steel, and real estate. So I was very fortunate to get my training in various facets of these businesses over the years. And the more I got involved, and I realized that, for me, the journey was related, but I chose a path which allowed me to diversify a portion of the family business and go more upstream at the farm level. The reason I did that was simply because some of my training involved setting up very close ground level research in at the farm level to be able to make better research, better trading decisions. So when I reached the fields, when I looked at all the crop cutting experiments, weather modeling, supply demand modeling that we had to do, I was more intrigued at the upstream side of the business, and that's what led me to form a seed company in 2013. That was actually a joint venture with partners from Canada and Japan. So it was a diversification for the family, and it was an interesting diversification because it allowed us to go right up to the farm level. And our target crops actually started off with soybeans, and we've diversified into now almost 40 different crops, each at different stages of growth. And by virtue of that, the family has now got access to farmers working directly with farmers. And in the last 7 years, when I went into this upstream diversification, that was new territory. It was linked very closely to the business of family. So I got support from everyone. And I've been able to diversify the seed business to not only include breeding, but also include farm inputs, plant protein extraction, and most recently, some precision agriculture here in Singapore.
Thank you very much. Ankesh, your US is one part of the education. Where do you graduate from?
Thanks to Prof. Koh, I came to Singapore. I joined SMU, and we had a really nice time learning. And thanks to Prof, I'm still here.
Very good. Thank you very much. I have to pull his leg, right? He didn't mention that part. Okay, I'm going to jump straight in because you have such sterling panel and so many questions. But let me get to the one that Hiro-san will probably be able to share very quickly. What is it about family business that makes them so ideal and successful in building an agribusiness?
All right. So that's why, well, let me talk just a bit about the long-lasting family business in Japan anyway, because many Japanese long-lasting family businesses, in many cases, it's closely related to the nature or natural ingredient. So that's why it's actually ugly business anyway. So in the Nagahara family's cases, it's definitely related to the, naturally grown, specially contracted soybeans is quite an important ingredient for the soy sauce anyway. And of course, Masuda family's the business is quite based on the kale businesses. Of course, it's a natural ingredient. So that's why how to make most of the natural stuffs is the key ingredient for the family to last much longer. So that's one of the findings by observing and researching on the Japanese family businesses. So this is one point related to the agribusinesses, but on top of it, generally speaking, as the Nagahara and Takuro Nagahara-san demonstrated, so he thinks his role is a kind of ring connecting the long chains, because so such kind of feelings, that's why the main purpose of the many Japanese long-lasting family businesses is not to scale up, but to continue. So that's why I'm not denying a scaling up. I'm not denying the growth, but actually, what is the main purpose of the family business in Japanese long-lasting companies? Just we need to continue rather than simply scaling up within a single generations. That's another important thing. And lastly, let me share some important findings based on my surveys conducted this year. I conducted the surveys to the family business owners in Japan, family business owners or entrepreneurs, the non-owner managers, non-owner, the CEOs. Quite important findings from here is all the Japanese family businesses whose performance is better than others tend to show kind of combination of the deep pocket and warm hearts, the famous combinations as the important combination for the family business to succeed anyway. But again, on top of it, the organizational nature of the family businesses is so-called entrepreneurial orientations. The higher the EO, entrepreneurial orientations, then the higher the performance, even within a Japanese context at this moment. So that's why deep pocket, warm heart, but on top of these important characteristics, entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial organization, the organizational culture is quite important for the family business to survive and attain the relatively higher performances, even in Japan. Because even in Japan, the context is becoming much more uncertain. It's swiftly changing. So that's why not just to do the same things forever, but even the long-lasting family businesses, as indicated by many researchers, need to become entrepreneurial under these current situations. These are the kind of findings and comments from me for the Japanese family businesses, in particular, the long-lasting family businesses. So that's why we could develop a really nice discussion argument based on this argument. So thanks, Annie.
Thank you, Hiro-san. I love it. That is anchored in research, especially on the long-lasting Japanese families. So I'm going to pivot to Ren Hua and Ankesh. Other characteristics to add on to what Hiro-san, because his research was confined to Japanese families. What makes the agribusiness so special, so endearing? I know you got warm hearts and deep pockets.
So I think maybe I can just start with a thought to build on Hiro-san's comment. I think particularly for my generation, and I guess for Ankesh as well, a lot of our peers are actually in very what they call fast-moving businesses. So fast-moving businesses, it could be consumer products, it could be consumer internet, it could be software technologies, where they really scale very fast. But with that also comes a lot of risk because certain things fail, you may overinvest, you may put the company in jeopardy. Fundamentally, I think agriculture and food is a long-term business. We are in the business of taking care of the world, and we're in the business of feeding people. So the philosophy, I think, that Hiro-san mentioned about being long-term and scaling sustainably, going steady but not too fast, is, I think, very, very important. Fundamentally, anything from farm to shelf, it could come from the soil, it could be a crop, it could be processing, it could be distribution, are generally very stable businesses. And if we think even broader about the future of this generation around climate change and decarbonization, I think all the more we need to think and act with a longer term horizon, maybe 10, 15 years, than just a shorter term horizon, 3 to 5 years, where you may take unnecessary risk. So it really resonated with me, the point about scaling up sustainably, growing the company with ambition, but also not do it too fast where you take unnecessary risk, which could really jeopardize the family business. Of course, by virtue of being majority shareholders, I think the value of stewardship is a lot more present and a lot more active. Taiwan, we are a listed company here, so we do have the privilege of at least having external shareholders, being a public company. But by virtue of having a long-term majority shareholder, I think investors and partners themselves, they welcome strong family businesses, which are also publicly listed and transparent as well.
Very nice. Ankesh, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I like what Hiro-san and Ren Hua mentioned. I mean, agriculture is not for everyone. It requires patience. And what happens is that when there's such a lead time involved in creating a business, creating value, going through the process of research, product development, and finally reaching the customer, it's something where you really need to be able to be in the you need to have the right platform to be able to generate that kind of to be able to have command that kind of time. So for me, I think agribusiness requires patience, yes, but transparency and integrity are two very, very important points for any company to truly make a mark in this space. I think in Asia, all of us are connected by just being by virtue of small farmers and dealing very closely with small farmers. It's not like the US or South America, but in Asia, we have to think about the farmers who are the true heroes and what do they need to be able to make sure that they can generate enough revenue for themselves, their families, and then that food ultimately gets processed and goes into a transformation process before reaching us. So for me, I think that trust that goes with developing any agribusiness has to be linked to the farmer. And personally, like the journey that I saw is that, when my grandfather in the 50s and 60s, the kind of effort that he took to develop these relationships, what's happening today is that when I'm actually dealing with the next generations of these farmers and meeting with them, that trust is what's actually allowing me to leapfrog and build my product and bring it to the market in a much quicker way, simply because people remember, oh, you're his grandson, and the product and the efforts that was taken at that time are percolating through in a very nice and fulfilling manner.
Very nice. I will jump to my two Japanese families now. Yeah, not on that earlier question, but on the next generation leaders question. I'll start with Nagahara-san because amazing story. He graduated in 1991, but he joined a bank and he was involved in, foreign exchange, bonds, FX, everything. And then he went back to the family business in 1998. So I'm going to ask you, Nagahara-san, what led you to go back to the family business? All right, that's one. And how do you get your son, all right, to join the family business? So what is it about the fifth generation business that will make your son want to carry the baton and run the race?
Yes. 私が、私5代目なんですけど、私が、東京で またシンガポールでもおりましたので、比較的恵まれた、いい、ビジネスマンというかやってたんですけども、やはり、君手醤油の、ことを思うと、私が、不自由なくね、高校、大学まで行かせてもらったのも、いい教育を受けさせてもらったのも、本当に、親をはじめとした、会社の先輩の方々のおかげであるという気持ちはいつも持ってましたんで、で、私には祖父もおります。当時また元気にしておりまして、そういう姿を見ていると、やはり私がやらねばいかんのじゃないかというふうな、気持ちに駆られました。で、私が、6代目今日おりますけども、息子に期待するのは、よくここそこそこ話は東京と岡山というところちょっと離れてまして、なかなか普段顔を見て話をすることは少ないんですけども、本人によく言ってるのは、語学、人脈、バイタリティってよく言ってます。私は語学ももう今あまりよく喋れませんし、こんな感じであまりバイタリティもなく、今に至っておりまして、あまり過度な期待を、息子にするのはかわいそうかもしれませんけども、自由に、今、若いうちにいろいろ経験してほしいという思いで私はいっぱいです。
Yeah, thank you very much. I love your story because there is a Chinese saying that when you drink from the water, you must remember the source. So you actually saw how the family had given you the opportunity for the higher education. And you know this is your responsibility. Yeah. But I think the business is also transforming. And you are hoping that your son, when he takes the baton, will also find that transformation journey exciting. All right. And come back to the business, which is, I think, what Hidemi and Masuda family is doing, right? So maybe you could share with us, Hidemi, what is it about the business that will make the next generation leaders want to be part of this agribusiness?
はい。まず、私たちがアグリのビジネスってこんなに素敵なんだよってことを、体中で表現してあげることだと思ったんですね。で、そもそも、この私たちは種苗会社という種を開発するということをしています。やはりあらゆる農業が、やっぱり種があってこそ始まっていくわけですね。ですから、多くの生産者や多くの皆さんが食することができる、作ることができることの一番大元を、しかもそれを開発できる。とても素晴らしいビジネスなんだということを、まずは伝えていくことが必要かなと思っていました。で、さらにですね、やっぱりファミリービジネスっていうのは、多角経営の前に、まず軸があるということをすごく知った方がいいと思うんですね。で、この軸がある、この専門性があるからこそ、それに付随した多角経営ができてくるということを、まずすごく抑えていくことが大切かなと思っていました。私たちは何のために事業をしているのか、社会のためにどう貢献できるのかということをしっかりと教えていくことと、それからこのビジネスの魅力を伝えていくことで、多分次の世代はいろんな学問を勉強してますから、そこを複合的に考えながら継承してくれてくるんじゃないかなと思っています。この会社のアグリはブランディングも必要だと思ってるんですね。だから、このブランディングをするっていうことにおいても、この会社が何を目指していきたいのかということを次の世代に共有していくこと、これを大切に考えています。はい。
Very good. So how is Yuki-san brought into the business right now? Are you going a training program for him?
私です。勇気ですか？
Yes. For your son to come into the business, how would he get to know about the seed business?
はい。はい。はい。ですね、私たちが考えているのは、もちろん種苗ビジネスというのは、もう長い間この会社が培ったものがあります。ということは、この会社で学ぶことができるわけですね。むしろ、これを軸にした多角化をするときに、いろんな種類の仕事、それからいろんなビジネスをまずは学ぶこと、それから経営を学ぶこと、そちら側がまず重要だと思ってるんです。ですから今彼は、幸いにも、早稲田の MBA で学ばせていただいております。このことが多分この種苗ビジネスということだけに限らないこの複合的な経営をするということにおける大きな力になっているのではないかなと思っています。
Very nice, which therefore leads me nicely to Ren Hua. Ren Hua, you actually have a management degree and you work in, consulting firms, and you also worked with your father in, hospitality. What led you to say that you want to go back to where grandfather started?
Actually, thank you, Prof. And actually, this is a bit of serendipity slash passion. So, my background is really in finance and strategy. I was always interested in business for the sake of business. The very broad-based curiosity of different industries, and starting my career in consulting private equity. About 7 years ago, I joined the Taiwan board, and I was really learning about the business and generally very curious. And when I was talking to my dad, we actually were looking for a professional CEO. So when we were leading the IPO for Taiwan back in 2015, 2016, we were actually looking for a professional CEO. And we went through one round, looking for a professional CEO, meeting different people. And then after the meeting, my dad looked at me over dinner and he says, if you want to be a good chairman one day, you better learn how to be a CEO. And I thought that made a lot of sense, because if you think about the value of long-term stewardship, back to Hiro-san's point about building business sustainably in a responsible, sustainable way, the role of the board and the role of the chairman is very, very important. But to do that, you need to have the operating experience of actually being a CEO, running a business, building teams, being accountable for results, driving change. So that was more the family purpose and vision around it. Since I joined, I've been really taking Taiwan directions according to my passion and my strengths. So, I don't come from a chemical engineering or agriculture background, but we've been building the business across Asia. We opened the China office, we opened the Vietnam office, we opened the Indonesia office. We are leveraging technology and digital way more the last 2 years and the last 20 years. We are starting our own venture capital arm at the end of this year to invest in new B2B ag technologies across Southeast Asia. So I think background is one thing in terms of the formal training of what you're trained in whether it's marketing or finance or chemical engineering. But along the way, I think just discovering your own purpose aligned with the family vision for a longer term horizon was something really that was very special to me.
Thank you. I love the answers, all right, from both my Japanese families and my Southeast Asian family. Ankesh, you went back after graduation to work, with the family in soya mill, in all the, supply chain. And yet you set up Agrimax Ventures, which is also an extension upstream. If you were to speak to all the young people in the audience right now, and you want to attract them to the family agribusiness, what will you be telling them?
Good question, Prof. Look, I think everyone has to, to me, I think a lot of the work is being done for us. The world is moving. Food and agriculture have been so distinct and separate over the years simply because of efficiencies, industrialization, urbanization. You're so disconnected from the food you consume anyway. But today, because of let's say the COVID-19 as a trigger point, or even the climate change issues that are happening on a much accelerated basis, the younger generation is looking at food a completely different manner. And I think that conversation is happening so rapidly, which is what I feel like there is an attraction to actually join this industry, to look at food but take it back to the agricultural level. And I think that's where new technologies and how can technology make an impact. And the more people reconnect with the source of food, it's almost become a necessity. So I feel like any new generation who has the privilege of having a family business that has an exposure, has a training platform in this industry, which I think needs the maximum amount of disruption today, because quite frankly, technology has not made much of an impact in agriculture as yet. And I think in the next 10 to 20 years, there is going to be significant improvements that are needed on almost on an existential basis. And the new generation will have a very good opportunity to make an impact here.
Perfect. And that segue into my next question. So having taken on your respective roles in your family business, can you share one big challenge and one big opportunity? Any one of you. Can be Hiro-san as well. A challenge in agribusiness in Japan and opportunity in Japan.
All right, so what could be the opportunity and challenge? But challenges are actually, well, the scale of the operations. In most of the Japanese cases, the scale of the agri operation is not relatively smaller than the foreign countries anyway. So that's why but some people have already talked about within this conference about the automation, robotics, AI, etc. So these kind of new technologies should be or could be combined with the real Japanese situations where the operational scale is not so big, but such kind of small operations can actually contributing to the many kinds of the agriculture, to produce the many kinds of the particular, for example, kale, for example. So that's why, if we can choose some areas like Hokkaido, the bigger areas, sometimes it's become possible to operate in a much larger scale. So that's why how to combine smaller scale with something technology, larger scale with some different technology. This kind of finding the new combinations in these areas is quite a bit challenge for the family businesses. But of course, it's an opportunity. And also the differentiation is the opportunity, because as the Masuda family demonstrated, the new development of new kinds to differentiate, to create to make the brand stronger. So this is another quite important point for the ugly Japanese family businesses to probably go global to sell the products. So this is probably the opportunity, I guess.
Yes. So Takuro-san, do you agree with Hiro-san? You can disagree with him.
Please.
Are you able to scale? Because you have to sing to your Sawyer saw for 6 months. So is scale something you want to do? You've lasted 5 great generations. Is your challenge scaling or something else?
「規模はそれほど大きくしたいとは思ってないんですが、やはりブランドとして今うちも一流ではないんですけど、それに近いぐらいのところまでは来ていると私は感じているので、それがすごく今の私にとっては楽しみ、課題ではありますけれども、合わせてですね、発酵食品というのが非常に今、日本も皆さん、シンガポールも皆さん、長寿の国になってきてまして、皆さんいかに健康に長生きするかというところに大変皆さん興味を持たれているので、そういうところがうちには追い風、チャンスと見ていますし、 また世界的にその和食がですね、すごく、無形文化遺産になったりしてですね、うちのような日本の大豆を全部使っている調味料というのはあるようであんまりないので、そういうものを、もっともっと PR していきたいです。で、その中でやはり、うちみたいな規模だと、まだまだ手でやっぱりね、やってるところもあったりするので、やはり、これから人手不足だとか、そういうところが、気にはなっていますけども、これから海外にね、生産を移管するつもりも今のところないですし、まあ、私の中では今のこの発行に関わってて、すごくハッピーではありますけども、我が社のファミリービジネスが必ずしも醸造でなければいけないよとは、私実は息子には言ってないですね。ですから、うちもその1866年から、最初材木やってて14年経って、多分非常に厳しかったと思うんですが、やむを得ず醤油を作り始めたのがその頃なんですけども、まあ今は前向きに醤油を作ってますけども、必ずしも、醤油に関わる必要はないかもしれないし、我が社の資本を持って、関わる方々が幸せにできるのであれば、また違うビジネスに舵を切ることも私は OK と。うちの、醸造家を出てるうちの父も元気なんですけど、82歳。そうやって言ってますんで、それは逆にプレッシャーと感じるか、嬉しく感じるか、6代目のことはわかりませんけども、そういうことをよく話しています。
Very nice. And I love it that transformation can happen so long as you have the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial mindset. What about Hidemi and Masuda family? What is a challenge that you're encountering and what's your opportunity?
はい。アンケシさんも言ったように農業っていうのは食でともすると医療までつながる素晴らしいビジネスなんですね。で、先生が先ほど日本アグリオペレーションが小さいかもしれないっていう話で本当にそうだと思うんです。で、今私どもの会社は実は機械化を進めるにあたってはなかなか日本って実はキャベツという北海道では大きい面積があってキャベツというものは最大に栽培できるんですけれどもなかなか機械化収穫が進まない。これなぜかというとですね、機械に向いた品種がないんです。ですから、ここの機械収穫と生産方法を考えるだけじゃなくて、品種まで考えていけば、必ずや機械収穫というのがうまくいくんですね。で、そういうことも、そういう世の中のためになることが私たちの開発ができるっていうことを思うだけで、ビジネスのなんていうエネルギーというのが湧いてきますね。それから私は農業というのが工業界に比べてあまりにも知財化が遅いと思ってるんです。で、農業ビジネスは生産物とか生み出されたものだけでビジネスするだけではなくて、やはり知財でビジネスをする。これがとても重要だと思っています。ですから今私たちがこの経理を作った非常に単純な技術でしたけども、このような経理を作ることを特許を取りました。全世界でケールというのが栽培していますけども、ハウス内で1年間で 6.5 回転栽培できるということ、この技術を特許が取れたんですね。で、これは日本に限らず、例えば面積の狭いシンガポールでも、一つのところで何回でもできる。そしたら皆さんがこの栄養価の高いケールをたくさん食べれますよね。で、そういうこと、その知財ビジネスが農業では、これ絶対に大切になるということを思っております。これからだから私たち、品種開発もそうなんですけれども、各生産者が持っている技術も知財化できるような、サポートが国の方でもあったらいいなって思ってるんです。
Yep. So I love the way you responded. I'm going to just jump to Ankesh and Ren Hua. After hearing our two Japanese families, how do you think you can collaborate with them? It's not prepared. They have to answer on their feet. Where are the opportunities for you to collaborate with our Japanese families? Ankesh, Ren Hua?
Well, first of all, I think like all things, I look forward to seeing our Japanese friends next year when we travel to Japan. We actually have We do have a sizable business for Taiwan and Japan because we export our tapioca-based ingredients to Japan. So with anything, we'd love to have that face-to-face connection. I do think within the entire value chain of agriculture, whether it's farm, seeds, ingredients, sources, there can be a lot of value chain collaboration in terms of R&D. Today, food and ag is moving so fast that at every step of the value chain, there are different new things happening. It could be a new innovation up from the crop side. It could be in terms of processing technology. It could be in terms of downstream application. So I think along the value chain, there are a lot of interesting opportunities to collaborate. And more importantly, I think when our Japanese friends do come to Southeast Asia for a business trip or social trip, I think myself and Ankesh would love to introduce them to folks and people in the region.
Good. Your tapioca packaging, can it be used to package Hidemi-san's kale? I saw her using a lot of plastic.
Yeah, possible. It can be used. It's used for flexible film, so we can see how.
Let's close a deal. What about you, Ankesh? Yes, Hidemi says, give me, all right, biodegradable tapioca packaging. Yeah.
Prof, the kale looks really good, by the way. I think research is the best way to collaborate for sure in agriculture, like genetics, quality inputs. And I think that's where companies should speak. I think the Masuda Seeds company, there's a lot. We have a very big research division that's focusing on vegetable breeding. So that's an immediate collaboration that I can think of. Distribution. We also have a vertical farm, as you know, Prof, in Singapore. So we can definitely try some of the kale seeds here to bring it to the Singapore market. But yeah, I mean, I think these conversations, there's a lot because Japan is quite mature in terms of, their focus on agriculture and quality. And I think the rest of the world can learn a lot from it. And Singapore plays a very pivotal role in making these connections.
Thank you very much. Ankesh is speaking like a Singaporean already. Okay, I'm going to finish the last round. Yeah, and very short answers from each of you. So maybe I'll start with Hiro-san. So how can family business lead in, adopting ESG goals? And, many people are listening in. So what other ecosystem partners would you encourage to work with our business families?
Well, actually, they were not directly related to the ESG anyway, but one of the important findings, and based on all the today's conversations, I could really confirm the formula for the success for the family business is a combination of the deep pocket, warm heart entrepreneurship. So this is a really nice, fruitful findings for me today. But on top of it, in many of the Japanese family businesses are really connected, like Mr. Ho demonstrated. Like stewardship is quite important. What kind of stewardships? So stewardships to the society, stewardship towards the employee, stewardship to the kind of bigger societies. So if the family business owner managers start thinking about how can I contribute to societies? How can I make all the stakeholders happier? So by thinking in this manner, that definitely can contribute to start thinking about the bigger context, which is the society or the globe or world. So that's why this way of thinking is definitely can contribute to the ESGs in various routes. So one of the keywords here is the connections between a family business and societies, how to contribute beyond the single families, bigger societies, etc. And then think about the happiness of all the stakeholders. These stakeholders could include all the people in the world. So that's why by thinking and by acting, by thinking about the bigger society, all the people in the world, maybe we could become Buddha or Christ or somebody. That's why this is probably quite important implications but in managing the family businesses towards the better societies, which means ESG.
Thank you very much. And Matsuda-san, your last comment about ESG.
はい、私も先生と同じで、世界に対して何ができるかということ。私たちはこの ESG というよりも、その中の、SDGs に関して特に考えていることは、 貧困の世界が、貧困の地域、もしくは、そういう地域、野菜、ところに、そこの適性のある品種が、その場所でも作れるような品種を開発することができれば、そこに労働が生まれて、そしてそれでそれを食べることができる、国民がいて、で、その人たちが健康になっていく。で、そのためにも私たちには、どんな環境下でも、作れる野菜、品種を開発することがまずすごく重要だなって思っているところです。で、さらにですね、ファミリービジネスにおきましては、このファミリーというのは家族もそうなんですけども、社員もそうなんですね。私たち社員がみんなきちっと健康で明るく楽しく会社を作ること、これがすごく重要なんです。ですから、情報の透明化は当然なんですけれども、今、日本の国では経産省が健康経営っていう仕組みを作り始めてくださいました。まだ中小企業ではあまりやってないみたいですけども、私もいち早くこれを準備を始めていて、会社、大きな社会と、それから小さい、社員を含めたファミリーが幸せであること、これを考えながらいくことが、なんていうんでしょうか、ESG というか SDGs というか、その世界の議論ができるポイントかなと思っています。
Very nice. Yeah, and Takuro-san, what about you? The business family's role in championing ESR, the ESG goals.
普段あまり、そういう言葉を意識することは今までなかったんですけども、今回何をやってるかなということを考えてみると、今我が社、大豆、小麦というものをとても感謝しながら使わさせてもらってるんですけども、その気持ちをやっぱり形にして今、私が入社してからそういうのを、いわゆる産業廃棄物ですね、そういうものはもう一切ゼロということで、うちの父と協力して、絞った醤油のカスは全部飼料にしてうちに食べてもらう。で、2年前から国産丸大豆にしたのはいいんですけども、今度は醤油を絞ると結構な油が出るんですね。その油はまたそういう会社に引き取ってもらって、燃料の除代の、一部に使ってもらうとかいうふうなことをかなり意識して、循環型ということでやってます。あと、社員を巻き込んでという意味では、やはり私もマサさんと同様に、社員がもうみんな健康でということで、コロナの感染者、今日まで今のところゼロなんですけど、70名おりまして、なんとかみんな健康に、あと健康診断を受けてとかいうことで、やっぱり、日本もいよいよ2人に1人が癌でというふうな時代になってきてますんで、そういうことで、いつか人生を終わるわけですけども、みんな会社が今60歳、65歳ぐらいまで働く方が結構多いんですけども、その後もみんな健康に、元気に過ごしてもらって会社に遊びに来てくれるような、そういうふうな社員がもっともっと増やしていきたいというふうに願っています。
Thank you. Very, very good. And I think the trust element is communicated so brilliantly. Yeah, so I'm going to let Ankesh and Ren Hua finish up the ESG goals and the ecosystem that you're going to be, engaging. What do you hope to see? Ren Hua first?
Yeah, Prof. Koh, I think the most important thing for ESG is that it's going to be lifelong. I think the challenge of this century and challenge for our generation is not 10, 20 years. It's, for our kids and our grandkids. For us at Taiwan, what we're focusing on is operationalizing certain ESG milestones to make it really concrete. We just started the journey. We are into our third year of publishing our own sustainability report. We've been partnering for UN Global Compact 2 years in a row. Last year, we just got into the Thailand Sustainability Index. So there are many different ways to just, play a part to really learn from other institutions, other organizations about best practices and how to improve, your own sustainability into your operations themselves. So we take a pretty practical approach in terms of building it in a systematic and, building block fashion. On a longer term perspective, I share Ankesh's vision that hopefully after this call, we've got many more young friends, young generation coming into ag tech, food tech. I think there's been a lot of incredible momentum over the last, 2-3 years. But just by seeing a lot more entrepreneurs, a lot more VCs, a lot more innovators into this space, I think the next 10 to 15 years will certainly be very exciting and very important for all of us.
Very nice. Ankesh, last word.
Okay, I know we're at 2 o'clock on the dot, so I'll keep it very quick. ESG, I think, Prof, ESG should be we should have started the discussion with ESG because honestly, ESG is the most important thing to focus on. Agriculture is a polluting industry with the water impact and the carbon emissions. So there's a huge responsibility on family businesses, I think, to look at ESG as the focal point, and any further money that's being invested, it has to center around ESG. I'm a firm believer of that, but I think hopefully next year when we convene, we'll be able to have a panel discussion only on ESG investing.
Perfect. Well done. I am so proud of all my panelists, and I must say this conversation could go on for another hour. But we'll follow Ankesh's recommendation. The next year when we all come together again, it will be about the impact of family businesses in building ESG goals within their businesses, and also about the power of the investment that is going in that direction. So I'm going to hand back the panel to our host. And thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Annie Koh and all the panelists. It's such an interesting conversation about family enterprise in agriculture. But before we end this session, we would like to take photo first. And I would like to invite the founder of International Association for Agricultural Sustainability, Mr. Kuo Chang-fu, to join us with the photo. Okay, he's there. So everyone, I will count 3, 2, 1, and everyone should give us the best ever smile, okay? We are ready to take photo in 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, thank you again, Mr. Fu, for joining us, and also Dr. Annie Koh and the panelists. Thank you for your participation.